Wellington Mara had given me a book, and one night I sat down and I started looking through the history of the Giants. And all of a sudden it hit me. I said, you got a lot of weight on your shoulders now. You have to perform.
I wanted to be mentioned in the same breath as a Wyatt Tittle or Sam Huff.
Frank Gifford and Andy Robustelli, ghosts of the past.
Ghosts of the past.
Rich tradition.
Steve Owen was really, I think, the rock that we built on. He was like my second father.
Center for the New York Giants is Mel Hein, number 7, in all-league center for the past 5 years.
When we came out in the second half, and some of the Bears got over there and got looking around, and they saw that we had tennis shoes on.
They were slipping and sliding over. They couldn't touch anybody. Rudder's utopia.
In the Giants' backfield is Ed Danowski, number 22, spectacular triple threat man from Fordham University, and one of the league's best passers.
I thought it was a great triumph and set us up for many years in the future.
Andy Robustelli and Jim Katcavage, M. Tennell with Jim Patton, Rosie Greer and Dick Modulewski.
In my 8 years with the New York Giants, we were in 6 World Championship games. That's a great run, a great run.
And triplets blast 20 yards, all those pretty white sneakers. Gifford leaps and crossfires a touchdown pass.
All of a sudden, here was pro football becoming a smash hit in New York.
You do that one more time, dude, and I'm going to sock you one.
More blocks and Amici rockets for the touchdown. The greatest game ever played.
These were great players. They were great gentlemen, but this was our time.
New York Giants first-round selection, quarterback Phil Simms.
Just get out there and run like hell and catch it, all right? You know what I mean? Like a street game.
Hey, baby, let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs and have some fun.
We were just stronger than everybody else. We just beat people into submission.
Still in the street for the 30, down to the 25, down to the 20.
The Giants have accomplished something that many people thought they would never see.
Nobody can ever tell you that you couldn't do it, because you did.
8 seconds to go. Giants on top. The ball will be spotted at the 37-yard line. Snap, spot, in the air. It's got the distance. It is no goal. Giants win. Giants win.
It seems as if things have come full circle, and now we're the ghosts.
This team is going to the playoffs.
Drop straight back. Giants on a blitz. Now Henderson throws, swings it right, and the pass nearly it is intercepted by Seymour. Throwing down the right sideline. It's got Camilla. Touchdown! The final score: the Giants 41, the Vikings nothing. Super Bowl, here we come.
In its early years, the National Football League was hardly a national game. Most of its ball clubs played in Midwestern towns, and if the NFL expected to survive, a team would have to play in America's largest city. New York welcomed pro football in 1925, when an unlikely benefactor was approached to buy the franchise.
Tim Mara was a bookmaker in New York, which was a legal occupation at that particular time, and he was also a very flamboyant man around New York. 2 of his best friends were Mayor Jimmy Walker and the Governor Al Smith. And Mara was involved in a lot of things.
My father was offered the New York franchise in the National Football League for $500, and his exact quote, an empty store with chairs in it is worth more than $500 in New York, and that's how he acquired the Giants. He had never seen a football game before.
The fledgling football squad shared the Polo Grounds with their Giants baseball counterparts, hoping to attract fans by signing players such as the legendary but over-the-hill Jim Thorpe. The team won right away, but skeptical New Yorkers remained unconvinced.
The Giants were very lucky if they got 10,000 people to watch a professional football game. In fact, they were, I think, $40,000 in debt when the season was coming to a close.
In attempting to acquire Red Grange, the country's most famous college player, the Giants were at least partially successful.
Grange had already signed with Hallis with the Bears, but he did get an agreement with Hallis to come in and play an exhibition game in the Polo Grounds, and it was a huge crowd and was a huge success.
When the Bears came out there on the tour with Red Grange, there were more than 70,000 people who showed up paid to get into the Polo Grounds to watch Red Grange play. This really established the sport of professional football in New York City. And with that, they, in fact, made enough money so that they were in the black at the end of the year.
The team won its first title in 1927 as future Hall of Famer Cal Hubbard led a defense that allowed only 20 points all season. 2 years later, Tim Mara purchased the entire Detroit Wolverines franchise, primarily to secure the rights to the league's first superstar quarterback.
They've been one of the best football players that ever lived, Benny Friedman. He was not only wonderful as a quarterback, and as any kind of a back, but as far as the forward passes, he developed a forward pass.
Friedman led the Giants to back-to-back 13-win seasons, while in the front office, Mara began delegating more responsibility to sons Wellington and Jack.
I was the personnel man, Jack was the businessman, and at that point I had no money worries. I left that to Jack. Jack was the worrywart of the family, and Jack would say many a time, what if we have a bad year? My father would say, how could we ever have a bad year? And that would be in the midst of a bad year too, but he was an optimist.
The Great Depression started with the stock market crash of '29, and Tim Mara lost a huge amount of money in that. At the same time, he felt very bad about the real problems of unemployment in New York, and he came up with an idea that he thought was a very good one. At the end of the season, he thought he would have his New York Giants play in a college all-star football team from Notre Dame.
And the people of New York actually thought that those Notre Dame guys had a chance to win. Hell, they had no more chance than a jackrabbit. They were so dumbfounded that there was guys that could do what we were doing to them.
They had, I think, 40 to 50,000 people who showed up. The entire proceeds Tim Mara gave to the city of New York for use with the unemployed to be used for relief, and it was a $115,000 check, which was a lot of money in 1930.
In 1931, the Giants signed their greatest lineman ever, a team fixture for a record 15 seasons.
Center for the New York Giants is Mel Hine, number 7, All-America at Washington State and All-League center for the past 5 years. Watch how he charges and blocks after a perfect pass.
Hine was equally as brilliant defensively as a linebacker and still holds the team record for consecutive games played. But it wasn't until 1933, when All-American quarterback Harry Newman arrived, that New York became title contenders once again. Newman led the Giants to the league's first ever championship game between two division winners. In a seesaw struggle with the monsters of the Midway, New York led 3 times before the Bears finally went ahead with less than a minute remaining. A late Giants comeback just fell short, but they would exact sweet revenge in the Polo Grounds rematch a year later in a championship battle sports writers dubbed the Sneakers Game.
And it was a frozen field. It was in December. It was not only frozen, but it was corroded. It had been muddy and it was very corroded. The cleats would not hold at all.
Ray Flaherty was our assistant coach. He said that one year at Gonzaga, which is where Ray had gone to school, we won a game by using basketball shoes on the field, on a frozen field just like this. And he suggested that the Giants do the same thing. Well, it was a Sunday, and we couldn't find a sporting goods store open in the whole city. But we had working with us a tailor named Abe Cohen. He volunteered to go up to Manhattan College and get the basketball shoes for the basketball team. So we put him in a cab and sent him up there. I think he had to break open the door to the locker room, break open many of the lockers. And he got back, I think he had about 8 or 10 pairs of sneakers.
When we came out in the second half, and some of the Bears got over there and got looking around, and they saw that we had tennis shoes on. They went over and told Alice, hey, those guys got tennis shoes on over there. Alice says, step on their toes with it, please.
Almost like magic, Chicago's halftime lead vanished as the Giants ran effortlessly through the backpedaling Bears defense.
They were slipping and sliding all. They couldn't touch anybody. Actually, runner's utopia.
right away we sensed something was wrong because they had good footing and we didn't have good footing. And they started piling up yardage and getting in position, and they'd end up beating us 30-13. They just outsmarted us, I guess. That was about the size of it. It was legal. There was nothing wrong with it.
In '35, the Giants made their third straight championship game appearance with a local hero at quarterback.
In the Giants' backfield is Ed Danowski, number 22, spectacular triple threat man from Fordham University and one of the league's best passers. Coolly, he spots his receiver. He rifles the ball away with beautiful form.
Danowski is still the only Giant ever to win 2 league passing crowns, the second coming in 1938 when New York hosted Green Bay for the title. The recipe for victory was simple: Danowski and defense.
We won it with a lot of players hurt, won it with great defensive play. They kept us in the game, and finally Danowski and Soar put together a last-ditch march. I thought it was a great triumph and set us up for many years in the future because those rookies became veterans and they carried the team.
Although the Giants remained contenders well into the 1940s, this would be New York's last championship celebration for nearly 2 decades. While Giants players of various eras came and went, one constant endured: a mountain of a man named Steve Owen, New York's head coach for nearly a quarter century.
One of the things about Steve Owen, he never had a contract with Tim Mara. Every year, they just agreed and shook hands. Never a written contract in the entire time from 1931 to 1953, and he was always happy.
He was a giant of a guy, physically and spiritually. He was just a beautiful person. The one thing that you did with Steve is you loved the guy. He would give you some, what you might think, impossible assignments. But, you responded to him because you had to deliver. He was conceptually the best defensive mind that I have ever seen. Steve, to me, is the creator of what you see today in defensive football.
Steve had a fairly good knowledge of football, and he put in the first team to use a 5-3 defense with stunts and things like that, and the 5-4 umbrella.
It was one of the most versatile defenses around, and other teams were not prepared for it when he first introduced it in the early 30s, and it became a major factor in defensive football in the NFL.
It was Owen who first established defensive excellence as a Giant trademark. Another franchise signature was a physical running game. Few backs were more bruising than future Hall of Famer Alphonse Tuffy Lehmans, who won the league rushing crown in his rookie year.
Hardly anyone knew about Tuffy Lehmans until he played in the All-Star game in Chicago. He played a great game, and Wellington Mara saw him play and went up to talk to him and asked him if he was interested in playing with the Giants. So he came with the Giants. Now, Tuffy was a very hard runner, not a lot of great speed, but he had a knack of driving through people, and he was tough. His nickname was Tuffy, and he really was tough.
Opening the running lanes for Lehmans was fullback Ken Strong, who also served as the Giants' field goal specialist for many seasons. At the time of his retirement, the Canton-bound kicker was New York's all-time leading scorer. Another prolific point producer was wingback Ward Cuff, number 14. Cuff was the preferred passing target for Giants quarterbacks from the late 30s into the 40s, when the team made 5 championship game appearances. Unfortunately, the Giants failed to win any of those games. Steve Owen and the Mara family understood changes would have to be made. Aging stars were eventually replaced with players from the college draft. Soon, New York's post-war roster began to sport an abundance of fresh faces. One of their first successful picks was Chattanooga's Gene Choo Choo Roberts. Choo Choo scored 17 touchdowns in 1949, and his 218 rushing yards in a single game remains the team record to this day. Another astute move was a trade with the Redskins that brought Mississippi quarterback Charlie Connolly to Manhattan.
Charlie Connolly is one of the strongest men of character, of strength,
inner strength that any mortal I've ever known. And, you know, they talk about who would you like to have next to you in a foxhole? That's the man you want. He is just great under pressure. He was tremendous.
When I first came with the Giants, I guess they listed me as 24 years old. But I was 47 because I'd been in college and I went in World War II for 3 years. My offensive players, linemen, the guys who were blocking for me kind of felt sorry for me because I was a little older. When the guards, say for example, missed a block, some of my teammates would come back and apologize. Where I would tell them, "You're killing me, you're hurting me," and I think my age helped me quite a bit with it.
It also helped having fellow Southerner Eddie Price in the backfield. Injuries shortened the former Tulane runner's career, but he was New York's ground-gaining leader 3 times and still holds the team record for seasonal yards per carry average. In 1951, the price was right, as Eddie won the league rushing championship, the last time any Giant has claimed that title. Winning football returned to the Polo Grounds in the early 50s, due in part to a pair of future Hall of Fame defensive stars.
This is Kurt Gowdy introducing Husky Arnie Weinmeister, the New York Giant, one of professional football's standout tackles. His familiar number 73 brings lots of satisfaction to the hearts of Coach Steve Owen and all the members of the Giants football team, and it also brings plenty of headaches and bruises to the opposition.
Regarded as the fastest lineman in the game, Weinmeister earned All-Pro honors in each of his 4 seasons with the Giants. His constant pressure perfectly complemented the brilliant pass coverage of safety Emlen Tunnell. Only one other player in history has intercepted more passes in his career than this 9-time Pro Bowl defensive back.
Emlen Tunnell was one of the great football players of all time. He still, I think, is one of the leading interceptors in a 12-game season. Of all the guys, weak side safeties I ever saw, he probably had the best instincts for the ball I've ever seen.
I used to love to watch him catch a punt. He caught it like Willie Mays. He had the softest hands I've ever seen. And he wasn't all that fast, and yet he had some incredible returns of punts and kickoffs. He just had a great instinct and a feel for where he was on the field at any time.
The Giants added more coast-to-coast capability in 1951 when they used their bonus selection in the draft to sign SMU's All-American halfback, Kyle Rote.
Here is a Giant thrill of the year. Rote slips like quicksilver into the open. He outruns the field for 52 yards. Rote comes back on his own college gridiron. The Giants win it 24-6.
Kyle Rote was respected on the field as a leader, but the players loved him too. In fact, I think 6 of them named male children after him, using the name Kyle, which was not a very common name in New York.
USC glamour boy Frank Gifford was the top pick in '52, but then the ball club began to struggle, prompting the eventual Hall of Famer to worry about his future.
We had a terrible team. I'd never really been booed before. And in 1953, which was my second year, I finished on the bottom. I wound up playing both offense and defense for the season. And I thought to myself, I don't need this. Well, I could do better with my brother-in-law working in construction.
The fans still came out each Sunday, but their discontent was obvious. Management now had to ponder the unthinkable, dismissal of legendary coach Steve Owen.
He never wanted to quit. And by 1953, he really needed to leave the head coaching ranks. And it was the toughest thing Wellington Mara ever had to do, was to talk to him about that and tell him that it really was time to retire.
Owen was replaced by former Giants end Jim Lee Howell, who agreed to step in only after securing the jobs of arguably the 2 best staff assistants in football history.
And then they said, well, if you let Tom handle the defense and get someone to handle the offense, he says, I'll take the job. And so we got Vince Lombardi to come off of the West Point where he was coaching at that time. And Vince and I went side by side with complete responsibility. Jim Lee Howell was a great person. I don't think you could have done that with anybody else.
Howell never had a losing record in his 7 Giant seasons, thanks to young stars such as Jimmy Patton, the team's #2 all-time interceptor, and the first NFL player ever to return both a kickoff and punt for touchdowns in a single game. The Giants also got lucky with a 27th round draft pick named Roosevelt Brown, who blossomed into a Hall of Fame offensive lineman and a player many consider the greatest left tackle of all time. Rosie cleared the way for Frank Gifford and his backfield running mate, a Canadian League refugee named Alex Webster. His technique wasn't pretty, but Alex always seemed to get the job done.
To me, the great era of the Giants, they point to other athletes on that team. But when it really was tough, it was the big redhead, the guy from Kearney, New Jersey, who did it. They always went to Alex Webster. He instinctively had it. He was a winner.
By now, the whole franchise was a winner as well, as the Giants' golden age was about to begin. In 1956, the team bus began arriving at a new home for the New York Giants, historic Yankee Stadium. And the players couldn't have been more pleased.
Getting into Yankee Stadium, there was tile on the floor, in the showers even. In the Polo Grounds, it was wooden floors all over the place, and splinters were an every day or every hour occurrence as long as we were in there. But being in Yankee Stadium, I think a lot of us automatically just sort of associate ourselves with the Yankees as well and their success. So we felt a real uplift, I think, about that move.
Yankee Stadium had a great smell. I mean, it was only New York. I mean, there was booze, there was popcorn, it had this wonderful aroma to it.
I thought all the trains went to Yankee Stadium, and Mo Gillespie and I jumped on a train, and we ended up in Washington Heights, which is a long way from Yankee Stadium. But you learn your way around, and if that's what Yankee Stadium was, we grew with it. And it was 8 years of great football.
In their maiden season in the Bronx, New York won its first NFL championship since 1938, thrashing the Chicago Bears in a sneakers game sequel.
And that was a game where we wore tennis shoes. You know, we wore the tennis shoes in the frozen field. The field was just as hard as a cement sidewalk, and the Bears went on with their cleats, and I think they had trouble because the ground was so hard and so slippery.
And triplets blast 20 yards down to the 2-yard line. Oh, those pretty white sneakers.
Quarterback Charlie Connerly directed a Giants attack that rolled to a 34-7 halftime lead, then coasted in for New York's most decisive championship game win ever. Jim Lee Howell savored the first of what he hoped would be many more victory rides. His Giants possessed the league's finest defense, and the fans soon recognized this by creating one of the most famous and deafening cheers in sports.
You almost had to guard yourself about getting wrapped up with them because they made so much noise and they got behind us so much. It almost was a distraction because you couldn't hear anything.
But opponents certainly felt the wrath of New York's defenders. With Andy Robustelli, Dick Modzelewski, and Sam Huff, the Giants now had the talent to create a revolutionary new defense.
If we were going to be successful, we had to have the ability to stop the Cleveland Browns. They were the best team that I'd ever seen. It came out of the old All-American Conference. So I decided to develop the 4-3 defense. And it became the hallmark of defense in the 50s.
This advantage was never more clear-cut than in 1958, when the Giants had to beat Cleveland 3 times to make it to the championship game. In the snowy regular season finale, it was the defense that held the Browns, setting up a dramatic game-winning kick.
Many people were surprised that I was even in the game. In fact, the holder was the quarterback, Charlie Connerly. And when I got to the huddle, and stuck my head in the huddle, Connerly looked at me and said, "What the hell are you doing in here?" Which is not exactly a way to build confidence.
Summerall kicks. It's good. The season's longest field goal. The Giants and Browns are tied for the Eastern title. There must be a playoff.
A week later, the two teams met again in Yankee Stadium, and the Giants made sure the results were the same.
We relied on our defense, and we knew we were going to shut them down. And when you shut Jim Brown down for 4 quarters, brother, you're doing something. Tom Landry, he set up the defense to stop the Browns, and stop them we did.
This time, Cleveland didn't even make it into the end zone. The Giants' win put them in the title fight with the Baltimore Colts in what would eventually be known as the greatest game ever played. A record national television audience tuned in and watched as the visitors bolted to a 14-3 halftime advantage. Baltimore threatened to put the game out of reach until the defense staged a dramatic third-quarter goal line stand. Then the Giants mounted a remarkable comeback, spearheaded by one of the most bizarre plays in team history.
New York has Gifford at left halfback, King at right halfback, and flank wide to the right goes Webster. Here's Connolly faking the King, throwing down the middle. Road is in the open. He's got it, but he shakes first one man, shakes first another. He's been chased from behind and brought down. There's a fumble on the play, and it's picked up by the York. And Ray Williams with the ball from the 20-yard line into the end zone. That's what happened. And Omar Marcel.
I swear there's nothing too good for Alex Webster. I would do whatever he wanted, shine his shoes there at the middle of the game, whatever it was, because he really did. He saved me.
Connolly's pass to Gifford put New York ahead in the fourth quarter, but a Colts rally forced the NFL's first overtime game. And although the Giants eventually lost, the day's drama made football the new king of American sports.
People still remember this game because it was a crossroads game for the league, a turning point in the league history. And one of the reasons for that is the corporations, the fans, Madison Avenue all adopted this team, and it all added to and increased the popularity of pro football, not just in New York, but nationally.
This game made the Giants the toast of the town. Big Blue became the shining star of the Big Apple.
We were at a restaurant, and Warren Beatty and Natalie Wood had to stand in line for a table, but we got waved right by. I mean, if you were part of the New York Giants, you were total celebrity. It was just a remarkable time.
From national magazine covers to network television specials such as Walter Cronkite's groundbreaking documentary, the public could not get enough of the Giants.
Today you will play pro football, riding on Sam Huff's back. We've wired him for sound with a tiny transistorized radio transmitter.
Again, was another stepping stone in the popularity of the game because they saw something they had never seen. They were inside a helmet, so to speak.
What do you do that for, 88? You do that one more time, 88, I'm going to sock you one. Now, don't do that. You run again, you get a broken nose. Don't do that. Hit me on the chin with your elbow.
Madison Avenue executives were quick to see the wisdom of lining up Sam and his teammates for commercial endorsements, including one of the most famous of all advertising campaigns.
Charlie Connolly was going to be the Marlboro Man, and he got this Marlboro contract, and they were going to use this on a big poster with him on a horse. And I saw the proofs of this thing, and I said, Charlie, I'll be darned, you are perfect. You got the perfect cowboy face, and you look like you were born on a horse. And he said, Coach, I've never been on a danged horse in my life.
But defensive back Dick Nolan had never been on a Times Square billboard either.
This is right at Broadway and 44th Street, and right there near the Times building. I always used to kid about it with people and tell them that there was a guy down there pressing pants, and when he pressed the pants, the smoke ring came out and went across Broadway.
No Giant was more visible than Frank Gifford, New York's true prince of the city. Fans could see him on the field or watch Frank on his own TV program.
I'm Frank Gifford. I've been in the league for 10 years. When you're with the Giants, you learn that football is a game of percentages.
Account execs played similar percentages by putting the Hollywood handsome halfback in dozens of advertisements and TV spots.
I did a print ad for Vitalis. I also did a commercial.
Hey, Joe, are you still using that greasy kid stuff on your hair? What else? Vitalis. That's what else.
Remember the greasy kid stuff? That's still around, I think.
In 1959, the Colts and Giants squared off again for the league championship. But this time, Baltimore won handily in front of their hometown crowd. The following year, New York skidded to third place and lost Frank Gifford. after a frightening collision with the Eagles' Chuck Bednarik.
He didn't hit me in the head. I fell backwards and the field was partially frozen. My head snapped back and I got a concussion, which later turned out to be a spinal concussion. I had cracked a vertebrae in my neck.
They carried Frank off the field on a stretcher, and unknown to us, some fan that day had a heart attack in the stands. The man had unfortunately died in our locker room, and they were taking him out with the sheet over his face just as we started to walk in, and we all thought that Bednarik had killed Gifford.
While Frank was forced to sit out a full season as his injuries healed, other events were also affecting the team. Jim Lee Howell retired and was replaced by Ali Sherman. More changes rapidly followed.
1961 for the Giants was a little bit of a rebuilding year. We had lost in 1960. Charlie Connolly was getting older. I think the Maras and management realized they had to do something. So they worked out the trade with San Francisco, and Y.A. Tittle came from the 49ers to the Giants. We didn't have anybody, and nor had we had anybody who came close to throwing the ball as well as he did. I mean, the ball, you could hear it whistling when he let it go.
Tittle, he say to me, "Hey, Ali, I'll give you a pass to the tight end that's better than any dive. Here we got 4th and a half where the equipment man could fall on his nose for a first down, but he loved to throw the ball." And he had that presence.
But the Giants weren't done dealing yet. In an effort to add more speed to the receiving corps, New York acquired Del Schaffner, number 85, who proceeded to top the team in catches for the next 3 years.
Perfect target for Tittle. When you're a receiver with the kind of speed I had, it was wonderful to have a Del Schaffner around, because I mean he would clear the whole barn for you. He always commanded double coverage because he was the guy that could hit from 65, 70 yards out.
New York still fielded one of the NFL's best defenses. Young stars such as Jim Katcavage, Erich Barnes, and number 22 Dick Lynch saw to that. But the 60s Giants were also renowned for their offensive firepower.
Commenting upon the Giants, because I did live in New York for a while, they did have a great defensive team. But don't say that they didn't have also a good offensive team. After all, I remember Y.A. Tittle when he was throwing passes to Del Schaffner and to Frank Gifford. That was a pretty good offensive team, don't you think?
It was never better than the afternoon Tittle made history in a game he wasn't even expected to start.
I wasn't supposed to play. I'd hurt myself in my shoulder. And of course, the same old thing happened. Ali Sherman said, "Can you play?" And I said, "Yes." But I really didn't know whether I was going to be able to throw because I hadn't thrown all week. So I threw the first 7 passes were all incomplete, and badly incomplete. And I knew any moment he was going to take me out. And then I hit about 13 in a row. And I don't know why. It just happened. Everything went for touchdowns and 500 and some odd yards.
Tittle tied the league mark of 7 touchdown passes in a game. And with plenty of time remaining, his teammates encouraged him to go for the record-setting number 8.
We already had 49 points. For me to go out and throw the ball helplessly way ahead, try to get 8, it didn't seem in good taste then. Right now, I would throw it.
Y.A. led New York to 3 straight league championship appearances, but the Giants lost the first 2 against Green Bay, then the third versus the Chicago Bears. Unknowingly, the league's flagship franchise would not play in another title game for more than 20 years.
We represented the Giants. We took our shots and we lost, but at least we were there at the end, losing, but we were there.
We were in 6 World Championship games. Had we won none of them, is it so disgraceful to be second best out of the whole lot for so many years when so many teams never even made it?
It finally became evident that the Giants' glorious run was at an end the following season, when Tittle became the unwitting subject to perhaps the most famous football photograph ever taken.
He was back to pass the ball, and John Baker came in a crushing sack. I figured, well, I'd better stay and see what happens here. Well, they finally had to bring the stretchers out and take him away. So it grew in stature and in fame, and I think people, when they see this picture, symbolic, I guess would be the word.
The John Baker hit on me in Pittsburgh more or less ended my career. Hard for me to believe that I could really be finished. And the New York press got into the idea that I was an old man and couldn't play anymore. I was having trouble with Gary Wood, the other quarterback. He was trying to date my daughter, and I figured it's time to quit.
After the 1963 season, the Giants really fell apart. Players went either by retirement, by trades. All of the famous names were gone. Sports writers, everybody was looking for something that they could talk about with the Giants. There was this group of running backs they called the Baby Bulls. There was Tucker Fredrickson, Steve Thurlow, Ernie Coy, Ernie Wheelwright, Chuck Mersine. This was one thing that offered a lot of promise because these were big, strong, young guys. And this was supposedly going to be the new hope for the New York Giants.
Injuries shortened the careers of most of the Baby Bulls, but longevity was the hallmark of number 40 Joe Morrison's time in New York. Only Mel Hein and Phil Simms played longer in a Giants uniform, and no one in franchise history has more lifetime pass receptions. While Joe kept making plays, a Hungarian kicker was making headlines at the height of the AFL-NFL talent feud.
I jumped leagues, actually. I was the first guy jumping from the AFL to the NFL and signed with the Giants. Since back in those days, the two leagues were in constant war, this created quite a commotion. But basically, I was just a little player who wanted to play football and, and do my thing, you know.
Because of the Gogolak signing, the peace talks, so to speak, developed, and the whole merger developed from that. So Pete Gogolak, to a great extent, was the bullet that started the peace talks.
Gogolak eventually became New York's all-time leading scorer, but during the dismal 1966 season, everybody seemed to be scoring at will on the Giants.
The really lowest point the Giants reached was in 1966. That was the year that their defense allowed over 500 points. I think it was 501 points, which was at that time the most points ever allowed by any defense in the history of the NFL. Wellington Mara decided something major had to be done, and he went out and got Fran Tarkenton.
The Giants were delighted to welcome football's most animated quarterback, but obtaining him from the Vikings exacted a steep price.
We gave them the number one pick for that given year coming up, and the following year the number one pick. And the same thing with the number two for that year and the following year. And said, we're going to get Tarkenton. If we get to be a better ball club, it'll be worth it to us.
That team in New York, that first year that I was there, we finished 7-7. That was the finest accomplishment of any of my 18 years of professional football. They was a ragamuffin team that played hard and played together, had heart and had soul. Allie did a great job with that team. And for us to be 7-7 was like being 14-0 with any other team. It was the best year any team that I played on had ever had. We spread the field, we put men in motion, we had nobody in the backfield, and the reason we had to do this is that we didn't have a big offensive line. So we had to use the short passing game to be our running game. The West Coast offense, as we know it today, was absolutely started in New York, and they let me be a part of that architecture, and we had more fun with it.
New York's offense proved most enjoyable when Fran fired deep downfield to the mercurial Homer Jones.
He was the fastest receiver I have ever seen, and he weighed 235 pounds. Once he got the football in his hands, there's never been a receiver that could run like he could run. I mean, he was unbelievable, and they were starting to do the bump and runs back in those days. He'd go by bump and run like it wasn't there.
Homer is also recognized as the first man ever to deploy the end zone spike.
When I made my first touchdown, I was going to throw the ball in the stands. In the meantime, I had forgotten that he changed the rules, that I think it was a $500 fine for throwing the ball in the stands. And as I crossed the goal line, my ambition was always to throw that ball in the stand, but I thought about that $500 and it came down and I threw it on the ground. So that was the original spike right there, the origin of it.
Allie Sherman's teams of the late 60s posted back-to-back second-place finishes, despite glaring weaknesses on defense.
Put your eyes in your hands. That's why those drills were on you. Put them in there now. Make sure, nail it in. If you don't get them in these kind of drills, it's going to be tougher in the game.
I don't care how much you know about football. If you show me you can't hit, you don't belong here. You better get in here angry, both sides, and let's go to work. Now get it up.
But Ali's strongly worded commands could not compensate for the obvious lack of defensive talent. Even with friends in high places, Sherman was unable to return New York to the winner's circle. Ultimately, he was supplanted by another legendary Giant.
Ali was let go, which I felt so bad about that. And I was still in the process of learning how to be a coach. And when Mr. Mara offered me the job, I argued for quite a while with him.
Webster lost that argument, but ultimately won Coach of the Year honors by posting winning records in 1970 and 72, due primarily to the emergence of Ron Johnson, the first Giant ever to rush for 1,000 yards in a season. Another valuable addition was free agent Bob Tucker, a four-time team reception leader, and the NFL's first actual tight end to top the league in pass receiving. The defenses of the early 70s were led by the pass-rushing tandem of John Mendenhall and Jack Gregory. And for more than a decade, the one member of the Giants secondary opponents hoped to avoid was number 43, Carl Spider Lockhart, the third leading interceptor in franchise history. Despite these standouts, the Giants kept losing games and eventually lost their home field as well. Baseball renovations to Yankee Stadium forced the Mara family to make some difficult decisions.
As we went around the league, we saw the teams all having better stadia, being able to provide better accommodations for their fans. We had a tremendous waiting list, and we had so many obstructed view seats in Yankee Stadium. We just felt we're not doing our best for our fans. There's no way we can grow here or expand here. All we can do is hope to hold our own.
By 1973, the Giants became nomads, leaving their old park for the collegiate confines of Connecticut's Yale Bowl. Now every game was a road game, an obstacle new head coach Bill Arnsparger tried his best to overcome.
His first game with the Giants is a home game in Yale Bowl. Now he's suddenly confronted with the Giants dressed in the ladies' locker room at the Yale Bowl. So Arnsparger's in there giving his big pep talk for the first Giant game ever as head coach. And behind him is a sign that says, "Beat Radcliffe."
New York didn't beat anybody on their temporary home field in 1974. Despite solid performances from players such as running back Doug Coder, following another year of games at Shea Stadium, the Giants eagerly anticipated completion of a home they could call their own.
They came up with a number of different sites in Jersey, and this one was ultimately agreed upon. It was full speed ahead and damn the torpedoes.
After almost a half-century in the boroughs, the Giants were ready to cross the Hudson into New Jersey. On October 10th, 1976, just off New Jersey Turnpike exit 16W, the New York Football Giants opened a stadium worthy of their name.
Welcome to Giant Stadium. The escalator immediately in front of you will take you to the upper level. Escalators to the rear will take you to the mezzanine and lower levels. Please watch your step and enjoy the game.
Summerall. Welcome to Giant Stadium.
Unfortunately, the best Giants on the field that day were too old to wear their uniforms.
I made the mistake of trying to use what I call the patchwork system.
Mara's patchwork system replaced an aging nucleus with veterans like Larry Zonka, who were far past their prime. Now the team and the owner were suffering the consequences.
Wellington Mara, I have seen him in his moments of solitude where it has just agonized him to no end that we have lost. And the reflection that has on the people who come through those turnstiles every day, every Sunday.
I think, number one, we underestimated the fan loyalty. They were much more patient than we thought they were. So a 5-year plan would have been the way to have done it. It turned out to be, what, an 18-year plan or something like that.
The nadir came in 1978, leading the Eagles 17-12 late in the fourth quarter of an important NFC East game. The Giants needed only to run out the clock to even their record and stay alive in the playoff hunt.
Under 30 seconds left in the game. From here on in, Pizarczyk can just fall on the football and there is nothing the Eagles can do. And Pizarczyk fumbles the football. It's picked up by Herman Edwards. 15, 10, 5, touchdown Eagles! I don't believe it. I don't believe it. The Eagles beat the Giants 19-17 before a shocked crowd at the Meadowlands.
After the fumble in the Meadowlands, the Giants' ownership had seen enough. When the season was over, the Maras restructured the front office, handing personnel duties to new general manager George Young.
The first thing that he did to really put us on the right road was hiring Ray Perkins as the coach.
I wanted somebody to make it unhappy for the players to lose. I wanted a guy who I know that was tough and I know would fight through hard times, and that's exactly what he did.
Young had found his coach. With his first pick in the '79 draft, he chose his quarterback. Phil Simms started 8 games in his rookie year. Of those, the Giants won 6. But hopes for the future were waylaid the following season by a defense that allowed more than 400 points. The Giants needed a player who could make the same impact on defense that Simms had on the offense. In the 18th year of their 5-year plan, the Giants introduced the very definition of impact player.
If you went to the ball game and had no idea who were the best players were and just sat and watched the game, all of a sudden, after about 5 minutes in the game, you'll be watching Lawrence Taylor.
Hey, baby, let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs and have some fun.
The moment he stepped on the field, Lawrence Taylor revolutionized his position. He played with an unprecedented blend of power and athleticism, and in one season, transformed a struggling defense into one of the best in the league. With a win against Dallas in the final week of the regular season, the Giants would clinch their first playoff berth since 1963. Against the Cowboys, the defense saved the day as Byron Hunt's overtime interception set up Joe Danello's game-winning field goal attempt.
Here comes the snap. Here's the boot. It looks good. It's good. The Giants win. The Giants win. The Giants win.
A week later, the Giants gained a measure of revenge for the Eagles' miracle in the Meadowlands.
Going to come to the right, and Henry will take it. He drops it at the 5. It's loose. 3 ball. Giants have it in the end zone. Touchdown. Oh, my Lord. Giants got a touchdown.
With Scott Bruner subbing for an injured Simms, New York stunned the defending NFC champs in Philadelphia. The Giants had risen a long way in a short time, but as Perkins and his team were about to learn, things sometimes fall apart even faster than they come together. 1982 was a disaster from the outset. Phil Simms was lost for the year with a knee injury, and after a disappointing strike-interrupted campaign, Ray Perkins returned to college coaching. Suddenly, the fate of the Giants was left in the hands of an unknown defensive assistant with little experience in the limelight.
Before I became the head coach of the Giants, I coached the linebackers. And some of the things that I tried to stress with golly. I always emphasize that. Oh, I got to start this over.
Okay.
I can't get this right.
That was really good, though. I mean, we were on a roll. Yeah, it was coming on pretty good. Yeah. Doesn't matter. Just take your time, regroup, and we're still rolling. You're actually getting better. Yeah, I think you are. I mean, that seems
You want to trade?
Yeah.
Ready to go? I'm going to get it right this time.
But Bill Parcells didn't get it right the first time. In '83, he chose Scott Brunner as his starting quarterback. As Brunner and the team floundered, Simms fumed.
When Bill Parcells said Scott Brunner's going to be my starter, I remember walking into him and he told me, he says, "What, do you got anything to say about that?" And I said, "Yeah, I want to get out of here as fast as I can. I don't like you. I don't like, a bunch of," I couldn't believe this stuff was coming out of my mouth, but I just couldn't imagine Bill and I were ever going to be able to work together.
The coach and the quarterback eventually resolved their differences. But the season was beyond repair. The Giants finished with just 3 wins.
1983 was a disaster that the Giants were not counting on. Parcells was under huge pressures from the fans and from the media and the newspaper writers. Everybody was hollering for a scalp. The only ones who seemed to like him were the players.
The following season, Parcells surrounded his loyal core of veterans with 22 first and second year players.
What he did is he wanted to get a bunch of guys in there that I think that he thought were good, class, quality people, not necessarily the best athletes. I mean, we had a lot of guys who, weren't great athletes, but they were great people and we truly cared about each other.
He made his rounds with every player on that team one way or another during the course of a week so that everyone knew that he cared about them.
Billy, make sure you remind him. They might try something big early. Yeah. Okay? Last time I told you guys that, you forgot to remember. Remember? Don't worry about doing everything perfect now. Just get out there and run like hell and catch it, all right? You know what I mean? Like a street game. Remember them?
With a dominating defense and a ground game electrified by a shifty little runner named Joe Morris, the Giants restored 2 hallmarks of their past. Simms, meanwhile, threw for over 4,000 yards, something no Giants quarterback had ever done. The Giants returned to the postseason, where they met record-setting running back Eric Dickerson and his Los Angeles Rams. They shut down Dickerson and toppled the favored Rams. A week later, they traveled north to San Francisco, and though they were unable to knock off the eventual world champs, Harry Carson and company sent the 49ers and the rest of the NFL a powerful message. The New York Giants were back. The following season, they added a piece of granite to the championship puzzle.
I tell you, he's a stone-faced, that Bavaro now. You know what the hell he's thinking. I'd hate to have to fight that son of a gun.
Rookie tight end Mark Bavaro made one of the league's toughest teams downright scary. As Bavaro tore through opposing defenses, the Giants bullied their way to the top of the NFC East. For the first time since the days of Tittle and Gifford, the Giants hosted a playoff game. A 17-3 drubbing of the 49ers bought New York a ticket to the divisional playoffs. On a freezing afternoon in the Windy City, the Bears taught the Giants a humbling lesson about championship football, shutting out the visitors 21-0.
I can remember us sitting in the locker room there after that loss, and Bill Parcells standing before the team saying, "This will not happen next year."
We got beat, we got embarrassed, they went on to win the Super Bowl, but that was the beginning of our Super Bowl march the next year.
As the '86 season began, the Giants' hopes for a championship were clouded by uncertainty surrounding their 2 most important players. Lawrence Taylor was coming back from an off-season full of personal troubles, and Phil Simms was still being dogged by doubters who'd questioned him since the day he became a Giant.
New York Giants first-round selection. Quarterback Phil Simms, Moorhead State.
He endured 7 years of injuries, booings, and benchings, and now Simms had finally taken his place at center stage. There was just one problem.
You know, in '86, man, it was rough in the middle of the year. Our offense, it basically stunk, and I couldn't do anything, and nothing was working.
Mired in a mid-season slump, the quarterback turned to an unlikely source for advice.
Hey, Phil, I'll run the game.
I don't know who you're sending in.
I'm sending goal line in,
Well,
bud.
somebody give me something.
Okay.
I ain't got time to make a call.
He took me aside one day after practice, and he says, look, he says, I know we're not protecting you well, and the receivers are beat up and all this, but I just want you to go back being the quarterback that I know and love.
I said, you got to forget about this stuff and just go out and be aggressive and don't be tentative and don't be afraid. We'll just call the plays and you just throw. And that's when we went to Minnesota. And, of course, well, you know.
That is my favorite game of all. I enjoyed that game more than I did the Super Bowl. My first game as a pro was great, but the Minnesota game up there, it's the highlight of my career.
New York took a 19-13 lead in Minnesota, but the Vikings rallied, and with less than a minute to play, the Giants found themselves in a desperate situation. That's when Phil Simms came of age as a championship quarterback.
17, Simms drops back to the 40. Simms throws, complete, he's in. Yes, at the 30-yard line, first down. Snap, the spot, the kick, it's up, it is good.
After that 4th and 17 completion, the momentum it began to grow exponentially. Every game thereafter, every quarter, we got so much stronger, and we just had such a profound belief in ourselves.
We were just stronger than everybody else. We just beat people into submission. Physically, we just dominated people.
There wasn't a question of will we win, it's how much are we going to win by. That was the feeling you had going into the games, and that's a feeling that you don't often have, believe me.
The team was determined. Every single team that we played knew what we were going to run. And it didn't make any difference. This team imposed its will on everybody else.
Morris on the left, Simms looking right, goes with the middle, it is complete to Bavaro down to the 35, still on his feet to the 30, down to the 25, down to the 20, he's got 4 men on his back and gets down to the 17.
Their 14-2 record was the best in franchise history.
Intercepted, George Martin, 30, 45, at the 45, Elway takes it and breaks the tackle, 40, 35, 30 for Martin, Martin to the 20, Martin to the 10, he's in. What a run!
The Giants had become the team to beat, and along the way they created an enduring symbol of victory, the Gatorade bath.
Initially, it wasn't anything but an impulsive thought that one of them had, just have a little fun with Bill.
Knowing Bill Parcells was so superstitious, if you did something one week and it worked, you had to continue to do it. It was a fun deal. It was a symbol of our affection for our coach.
While the players showered their affection on Parcells, the fans embraced number 56. LT answered adversity with the best season of his career, shattering the team sack record and becoming the first defensive player in 15 years to be named league MVP. In the second round of the playoffs, Taylor and his mates continued to shine against San Francisco. The final was 49-3, but the game wasn't nearly as close as the score indicated.
Throws wildly, intercepted. There goes Taylor down to the 20. 10, touchdown. LT, way to go.
For the first time in its history, Giant Stadium was about to host a championship game. As they had a week earlier, the Giants overwhelmed their opponent.
Lobs it, complete touchdown. Lionel Manuel rolls of toilet paper. Pieces of cutout program, newspaper. Pouring down like a blizzard on Giant Stadium as the Giants and Bill Parcells and the coaching staff go crazy on the far sideline. And the Giants will be checking their reservation from Pasadena.
When they arrived in Pasadena, the Giants made themselves feel right at home.
Bill Parcells comes out of his office, and he's got a big chart of the Rose Bowl. He's got a tripod. He puts the chart up on the tripod, and he looks at me. He said, look, these are the sections that our fans will be in. When you come running out of that tunnel, here's where they'll be. Take that towel, get them revved up, because we want to make it seem like it's Giants Stadium.
We worked a long time for this, all right? You got an opportunity to be world champs right now. You can be what you want to be, all right?
Got the ball, backs up to the 2. He's in the end zone. They got him. Safety. He fakes the handoff. Sims trying to throw. Does. Touchdown, Bowen.
New York trailed 10-9 at the half, then put on one of the most dominating displays in Super Bowl history. On his way to MVP honors, Sims was nearly perfect, completing a record 22 out of 25 passes. And when he did miss the mark, Sims' receivers were there to pick him up.
The Giants have accomplished something that many people thought they would never see.
When we won, it wasn't just for the guys on the field, but it was for all of those fans who wanted to cry when Larry Zonka and Joe Pisarcik fumbled the ball and Herman Edwards ran the ball in. The victory was for Wellington Mara, who wanted to win just as much or more than anybody else.
The greatest thing that ever happened when we won that championship was to see him embrace that Vince Lombardi trophy, because God knows there has never been another owner in the NFL that deserved it more.
The rest of your life, man, nobody can ever tell you that you couldn't do it, because you did it.
The Giants followed their first championship season in 30 years with the most unsatisfying title defense in NFL history. After New York lost its first 2 games, the Players Union went on strike. When the owners decided to continue the season with replacements, the Giants' hopes for a repeat were ruined. The regulars returned after 3 games, but the Giants never recovered. They finished 6-9, last in the NFC East. The Giants spent the next 2 seasons fighting their way back to the top of the division they had ruled. In '89, they added a dangerous new weapon in return man David Meggett.
Meggett backs inside the 25, crosses the 30 going left, eludes a tackle 35, gets down to the 40-yard line, he's straight to the 45, he's at the 50, 45, he's at the 40, he might go, he's gonna make it all the way, runs back for a touchdown.
By 1990, the championship pieces had once again fallen into place. If these Giants were a bit less talented than the '86 champions, the distinguishing characteristics were suspiciously familiar.
Now that's it coming. Aikman back inside the 5, throws, tipped high, intercepted by Taylor, he'll score! Oh, Lawrence the magician.
By winning their first 10 games, the Giants were off to the best start in franchise history, and the fans had set a course for Tampa Bay, site of Super Bowl 25. But on a cold, rainy November afternoon, the Giants ran into a major roadblock when Sims went down with a severely sprained ankle.
When Phil got hurt, I was probably the coldest I think I've ever been standing on the sideline.
Sims is down and getting up slowly.
I remember Phil coming off to the sideline and saying his ankle was really bad, and you know, he didn't know whether he was going to make it or not. I said, hey, I'm going to kill you if you come out.
Sims is starting to limp off the field here. It's a first down for the Giants. Now we'll get Jeff Hostetler.
Everybody was doubting. The Giants are done. You know, there's no way they can do it now. And everywhere I turned, it was negative, negative, negative.
The quarterback who'd led them to their only Super Bowl was lost for the season. Now the Giants regrouped and prepared to make another title run without him.
Hostetler turns, rolls left, looking, throws, end zone. Touchdown, Frost!
In a 31-3 rout of the Bears, Jeff Hostetler proved himself fully capable of leading the Giants back to glory.
Hostetler, touchdown!
Let's go. Here we go. Going back to Cowboy, you guys.
Got one more? One more. Nobody thinks we can win, you know. Try to take. So they'll give us a chance in this one.
To earn a trip to Tampa, New York would have to dethrone the two-time defending champions in San Francisco.
Again, it was a week long of Joe Montana versus Jeff Hostetler. But I was smart enough to know that, hey, I'm not playing Joe. My defense is going to take care of that, and I think they're going to do a good job.
Both defenses did a good job. It was one of the most physical postseason games ever played, and not everyone survived the carnage.
Looking. Plenty of time. Rolls away now. Runs away. Eludes a tackle. His head fumbles the ball. Free ball.
Leonard Marshall caught him with his helmet right in the middle of the back, upper part of the back. You know, a good legit hit.
Late in the fourth quarter, Montana was lost for the game, and the Giants took full advantage of his absence. Lawrence Taylor's clutch fumble recovery gave Matt Barr a chance to kick the game winner with just 4 seconds left on the clock.
We're a minute away from Tampa Bay, baby. A minute away now. A minute away, baby. Fans are on their feet and screaming. Giants are trailing by a point. All depends on Matt Barr. Snap, spot. Kick is away. It's got the distance. It is good. Good.
And the Giants are going to Tampa Bay. It's over for the three-peats. It's over.
My dream had come true. I mean, we were going to the Super Bowl, and no one said we could do it, and we were going.
But Hostetler's dream game, played against the patriotic backdrop of the Gulf War, nearly turned into a personal nightmare early in the first half, when he tripped over a teammate and was sacked in the end zone for a safety. After falling behind 12-3, however, Hoss and the Giants bounced back with a second quarter touchdown pass to Stephen Baker. On the first drive of the second half, the Giants took control of the game. Veteran running back Otis Anderson, on his way to a 100-yard night and an MVP award, sparked an epic 9.5-minute drive, during which the Giants converted 4 straight third downs.
Throws, complete. He's got Ingram for maybe a first down. He'll try to the 20. Yes, he's got it.
One effort. Motion to the left by Brosco.
O.J. touchdown.
O.J. second touchdown in the Super Bowl.
But the AFC champions didn't go away. After a seesaw fourth quarter, the Giants led by a point. But in the closing moments, Buffalo moved into position to win the game.
1 point lead if you just clicked on the radio. 8 seconds to go. Giants on top. The ball will be spotted at the 37-yard line. Snap, spot, in the air. It's got the distance. It is no good.
Before the dust had even begun to settle on the Giants' second Lombardi trophy, dramatic changes swept through the organization. By the time the '91 season began, Bill Parcells was gone, and Robert Tisch, a lifelong New York fan, had become the first person, not named Mara, to buy a controlling interest in the team. Running back Rodney Hampton, on the way to becoming the team's all-time leading rusher, was the lone bright spot on a team struggling to regain its footing in the wake of Parcells' departure. In 1993, Dan Reeves took over as head coach, and in Reeves' first season, a forgotten old pro brought the Giants back into contention.
Sims has a pitch back. Sims has the ball. He's going way down. He's got Jackson. He's got it. Touchdown!
At age 38, Phil Simms had one of the finest seasons of his career, leading New York to an 11-5 record and a postseason victory over the Minnesota Vikings.
Motion to the right side by Pierce. After gets the call, going right, finds a hole right, gets the cross for 40, 35, he gets the 30, he's down the right side, he might score! Right star!
As 1993 ended, so too did the careers of two Giant legends.
I wanted to throw one more pass in my Giant jersey. So, who better to catch that pass than the greatest Giant player of all, Lawrence Taylor.
As one door closed, another opened, and through it stepped a new generation of Giants, intent on chasing the ghosts of their predecessors.
Welcome home, baby.
The cornerstones of a new Giants defense would be players such as Michael Strahan and Jesse Armstead. Along with Keith Hamilton and cornerback Jason Sehorn, they kept alive the tradition of a Big Blue D. But these Giants would be potent on offense as well. Steady receiver Ike Hilliard and slippery running back Tiki Barber were drafted in 1997. And with the speedy Amani Toomer, they formed the heart of New York's attack. But after lackluster seasons in 1995 and 96, a change in leadership was needed. And in Jim Fossil, the Giants found the man to lead their young stars.
I mean, we're going to be in and out of the huddle. Our lines are set, and we're after their ass. We're going to catch a lot of people standing up, kind of manning around, and we're after them. Okay, we're going to set our tempo. 1, 2, 3, win!
In 1997, Fossil and the Giants took the football world by surprise, setting their own tempo to the tune of a 10-5-1 record and an unexpected division championship, which they clinched late in the year by beating Washington.
Intercepted by Sehorn. The receiver fell. Sehorn down the left sideline to the 10, 5, touchdown Giants! And I'm going to tell you something, man. It's been a while since it's been like this around here. But you know what? We're back!
Cannell on a play action. Rolls to his right. Looks to the end zone. Touchdown!
In a playoff rematch with Minnesota, the Giants built a double-digit cushion. But with Randall Cunningham leading them, the Vikings would not concede. The lead dwindled in the final minutes, and Eddie Murray's field goal with 10 seconds left sent the Giants into a 2-year tailspin.
And good! Disgust on the Giants sideline.
The Giants failed to make the playoffs in 1998, and the following spring the team took a chance in a quarterback who'd been released twice in a matter of months. Midway through the 99 season, the embattled Jim Fossil needed to spark his sinking team, and Kerry Collins was looking to prove he belonged. Against the Jets, Fossil gave Collins the ball, and for a day, the Giants' problems disappeared.
He's got Toomer, he's got it. Across midfield, he made a man miss. It's a foot race down the left sideline. Amani Toomer to the 10, 5, touchdown Giants! Jim Fossil's breaking everything out of the playbook.
Collins threw 3 touchdowns and ran for another, and though the Giants missed the playoffs, the team now had its quarterback. Little did anyone know, but the pieces were in place for one of the greatest Giants seasons of them all. Heading into 2000, everything old was new again. The Giants' classic uniforms were back, as was a brand of dominating football the Meadowlands had not seen in years.
Off the back of his foot to the end zone.
Kerry Collins passed for over 3,600 yards, while Tiki Barber and first-round draft choice Ron Dane tore through defenses like thunder and lightning. But the true force of nature was the Giants' defense, which spurred the team to victory in 7 of its first 9 games.
And the Giants, flat as a pancake.
But 2 losses in a row put the Giants' postseason dreams in jeopardy, and Jim Fassel knew he had to gamble.
Get off my coaches' backs. Get off the players' backs. I'm responsible for the whole thing. I'm raising the stakes right now. This is a poker game. I'm shoving my chips to the middle of the table. I'm raising the ante. Anybody wants in, get in. Anybody wants out, can get out. Okay? This team is going to the playoffs. And that's my whole goal in life right now. I'll set the course.
After beating Arizona, the Giants used some solid D and 3 Brad DeLuiso field goals to eke out a win in Washington and move into first place.
To beat them, I think, really gives us a lot of confidence.
Does it have the distance on its way? It is go!
Really made us feel like we belong. We can win any game we play, and I'm not sure we felt that way before that game.
2 weeks later in Dallas, the Giants made good on Fassel's guarantee.
And the Giants are going to win the NFC East.
In the regular season finale against the Jaguars, a 5th straight win ensured that the Meadowlands would be rocking throughout the month of January. But despite the hot finish, many still doubted whether Big Blue's turnaround would carry them through the playoffs. Though the Giants had beaten the Eagles twice in the regular season, critics questioned whether it could be done a 3rd time in the same year. Rookie Ron Dixon provided the answer on the game's opening kickoff.
It's a good lining kick. Dixon will take it from his own 4. Up to the 10, 15, brings right 20, 25, 30. There goes Dixon to the outside. It's a foot race. Ron Dixon to midfield. Ron Dixon's going to score. But this is the best way you can ever imagine to start a football game. And Giant Stadium is ready to explode.
Playing with an early lead, the Giants' defense hounded young quarterback Donovan McNabb and forced 3 turnovers, the most spectacular of which all but sealed the game.
McNabb again over center. Drops straight back. Giants on a blitz. McNabb hit as he throws, swings it right, and the pass nearly and is intercepted by Sehorn. He's got it on the run. Down the left sideline, cuts it at the 10, 5, touchdown! Unbelievable athleticism!
It was on to the NFC Championship game, and the Giants' opponent would be a familiar one.
This crowd loves me here. I made the mistake of picking the Vikings before I came here. That's got to be the dumbest thing I've ever done in my life.
Talk to me first.
I usually do. I did this time. Have fun here.
All right, Chris.
60 minutes from the Super Bowl, giant tasks were laid before Big Blue. Settle an old score, outshine the ghosts of the past, and silence those who said neither could be done. With the gauntlet thrown down and the stakes never higher, the Giants responded with what may be the greatest performance in their history. And it all started on the game's 4th play.
Collins back, steps up over the middle, and he's got a man. It's Hilliard to the 5, touchdown! 46 yards down the left side. I want to be like Ike. He's got 6.
The Vikings fumbled the ensuing kickoff, and 1 play later, Collins found fullback Greg Comella in the corner of the end zone. Minnesota never recovered.
Before Minnesota's offense has ever stepped on the field, the Giants have 13 points.
The defense once again made life miserable for a young quarterback. And as the pressure increased, Dante Culpepper and the Vikings' vaunted passing attack wilted and disappeared. Meanwhile, Collins was having the game of his life in the game of his life.
Collins under pressure, avoids the sack, rolls to his left, throws corner of the end zone, touchdown, Jefferson! Oh, what a play by Collins!
Just 2 years after being thrown on the scrap heap, Collins threw for nearly 400 yards and hurled 5 touchdown passes, vanquishing the Vikings and rocketing the Giants to the Super Bowl.
This game is over. This game was over in the first quarter.
With the Vikings stunned, the Giants had erased all doubt. They were champions.
And today, on this field of painter's mud, we proved that we're the worst team ever to win the National Football Conference Championship. And I'm happy to say that in 2 weeks, we're going to try to become the worst team ever to win the Super Bowl.
Exactly 10 years and 1 day after their previous Tampa triumph, the Giants were back, 60 minutes away from the Vince Lombardi Trophy.
Something else, huh?
Let's get New York Giants on 3. 1, 2, 3. New York Giants.
Stover approaches the football. We are underway.
Hey, play quick with him. Play quick.
In the first half, Collins wasn't quick enough, throwing 2 interceptions, and the Giants trailed the Baltimore Ravens at the half 10-0. Down 17-0 in the third, New York again looked to Ron Dixon to provide one last postseason spark.
Washington back deep with a high climbing kick. Dixon will range back to his own 3. Dixon to the 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Ron Dixon's going to go. No one's going to catch him.
Dixon's 97-yard touchdown return provided the Giants with the final points of their season.
And to get all the way there, it hurt. It hurt.
Had a great season, man.
You know, you don't get many opportunities. A lot of people never get that opportunity. And I told them right after the game, I said, we had a great year and a bad day. And we had a bad day, and we have to own up to that.
Here we go. Let's go to work. Let's go to work. Hey, great day. We got to get better now.
It's an honor to get there. But once you're there, you just don't want to say, well, that's okay. It isn't okay. I want to get back there right now and win that game so bad. It's obsessive to you. Once you've tasted getting to the Super Bowl, now you got to get there and win.
The Giants' quest for the Lombardi Trophy became insignificant after the nation was devastated by the events of September 11th.
Sitting on my balcony or off the deck watching the towers burn and watching them fall and just thinking, you know, I can't believe it. And then at that night when you had to hide the lights and everything and you see all the smoke, you're thinking to yourself, well, when the smoke clears, they have to be there.
With the city in shock, the Giants dedicated themselves to helping their fellow New Yorkers, replacing despair with feelings of hope.
The experience of being down there the Saturday after, at that point in time, people were exhausted. They're working 12-hour shifts. We went and brought a bunch of supplies for them and goods. You get 50 guys, you know, coming down to ground zero, kind of telling these guys thank you and cheering them on just like they do for us. It was like a second win, some of them told us.
When the NFL played again, when the Giants came home, it was just very emotional because it was people going about their normal routine.
And that week before we went, we had a counselor that came over Friday, and he was telling us that people are going to be inspired when they see us. It's going to like perk people up. And even if it only lasts for a moment, that God is going to use us to be a part in the healing process.
Collins drops back in the pocket, steps up, plenty of time, deep ball over the middle, looking for Jurevicius. He's got it on the run to the goal line, touchdown! Collins threw a bullet, and that can seal the deal with 6:05 to go.
After a 3-1 start, the team struggled through a pair of 3-game losing streaks. The one constant was number 92, Michael Strahan, who dominated the NFL from start to finish.
All day long. I tell you right now, you know everybody gonna watch this with my foot on you, right?
McNabb back, under pressure, rolling right, sack back at the 40-yard line. Guess who? Michael Strahan. Play fake, rolls right, gets sacked by Michael Strahan. It's a new record, Michael Strahan, 22.5 sacks.
After battling back into playoff contention, time finally ran out on the Giants' dream of returning to the Super Bowl.
And the shotgun is back. He's looking, he fires, he completes it over the middle, running with the football, they lateral it off to Ron Dixon. Whoa! At the 50, at the 45-40, at the 35-30, at the 25, and finally tackled at the 5 with no seconds left, and the Eagles win.
In order to return to the playoffs, New York's roster needed a boost. The jolt they were looking for came in the NFL Draft.
With the 14th choice in the 2002 draft, the New York Giants acquired Jeremy Shockey, tight end from the University of Miami.
That first day when he checked into training camp and got in a fight, and everybody was all upset. I said, how can this guy do that? And all I said to myself was, my guy has arrived.
Shockey made an immediate impact, rekindling the championship passion that had waned in 2001.
Down the right sideline. There goes Shockey, blowing people over. That's more yardage than all the tight ends had last year.
Strong safety David Gibson wants the truck number that ran him over.
With a style reminiscent of Mark Bavaro, Shockey caught 74 passes in his rookie year and was selected to the Pro Bowl. In 2002, Kerry Collins set a team record with 4,073 passing yards. Wide receiver Amani Toomer had a franchise record 82 receptions for over 1,300 yards. Each helped the Giants win their final 4 games, putting New York in playoff contention.
Toomer to the 20, to the 10, to the 5. Touchdown, Giants!
Eagles on a blitz. Collins lobs it right, looking for Shockey, and he's got it for a touchdown. He took it right away from Dawkins.
All that was a jump ball, and Shockey wanted it more.
Here comes Bryant to try a 39-yard field goal to put the Giants in the playoffs. Snap, spot, kick on its way, plenty of leg, and it is gone! Oh my gosh! I don't believe it! The Giants are going to the playoffs!
In the wild card playoff against San Francisco, New York continued to pile up points, opening a 38-14 third quarter lead. But the 49ers stormed back, scoring 25 unanswered points. Despite the second largest comeback in NFL postseason history, the Giants still had a chance to win.
Matt Bryant will have to connect from 41 yards out. If not, the season is over.
Here it comes with another bad snap. And now they're going to have to try to throw for it.
Matt Allen can't get it down. He's trying to throw it. He just heaves it downfield.
There's a Giant there. It's incomplete. Game is over. Game is over.
38-14, you can't lose a game like that. They needed everything to go right, and it went right. And that doesn't happen very often, but that will tear my heart out for the rest of my life.
We've all suffered a lot of defeats, but I'm not so sure that in my career I've ever been in that kind of shock.
New York never recovered, and in 2003 finished with a 4-12 record. After 7 seasons, the time had come to replace head coach Jim Fossil.
11 years ago, he was the man we wanted, and today he's the man we want. 16th head coach of the New York Giants, Tom Coughlin.
I'm very happy to be here. My family is very excited about being here, and I look forward to accepting the challenge that lies ahead.
In addition to hiring Coughlin, the Giants also acquired the most talented college player in the draft, quarterback Eli Manning.
I've had the opportunity to be around great quarterbacks. It's the most important position on the field, maybe in all of sports. You can evaluate every physical ingredient and even the mental ingredients, but ultimately there's almost something that's not definable that you have to just instinctively see or feel. And in our opinion here, he had it.
Having been an assistant coach with the Giants from 1988 to 1990, the front office also believes that Coughlin has what it takes to win in New York.
He's got a Super Bowl ring with the New York Giants. This franchise means something to him. Its history and tradition means something to him, as it does to all of us. So I don't think that he feels he has any time to waste to try to restore the franchise to where it belongs.
Get it going now. Let's get it going. Let's get it going. Remember this. Now, you got to get into the ball carrier. You got to get your body into the ball carrier. Get into him. Vaughn, don't stand straight up in the air at a vertical set. Stay low. I need a little more intensity than I'm getting here now. Let's go. Don't let me catch you going half speed again, okay?
It's a great organization. It starts from the top. You know, when I was here as an assistant coach, I had the opportunity to sit back and evaluate and watch how things unfolded here. Well, all kinds of great football players, Phil Simms, O.J. Anderson, Mark Bavaro, Harry Carson, Lawrence Taylor, were a great example of guys about how the game should be played, the intensity and the effort. We're here for a reason, and we're willing to pay a price to win, and that's what that football team was all about.
As the 2004 team prepares to write the next chapter in Giants history, Tom Coughlin will ensure that his players appreciate the organization's storied past. Since 1925, New York has been one of the preeminent franchises in professional football. Hall of Fame players like Mel Hein helped establish a tradition of excellence that has been carried on from generation to generation. From the Polo Grounds to the Meadowlands, through good times and bad, the fans have remained loyal to their beloved team. At the dawn of a new era, they anticipate the emergence of another outstanding team, one that will add to the legacy of New York Giants football.